Okay, before we start, this is like basically obviously a gun rally, gun debate. But I'll tell you, which is there's a lot of people that always go like, oh, we should ban guns because of this. But here's a very short, simple answer to explain why it's not really a good idea. I'll use cars as an example. The reason adults have cars is to get to their jobs. Like, I'm not talking about like other countries outside of America because I couldn't give a shit because this is obviously not about them. But in America, we have cars because we're supposed to travel places and go places. So let's say you give a million adults cars, right? Their freedom is to have cars. Like, there obviously are going to be car crashes, and there obviously are going to be bad actors that use those cars to kill other people. And that's the thing. A part of freedom is accepting the negative repercussions of it. People would then have to walk to their jobs, like spending 3 hours walking to Universal Studios, just then to spend another three hours walking to their house. And that's not only inefficient, but that's gonna kill them. But that's the thing with a lot of these things, which is the reason we can get knives, pretty easily at Walmart is because most people, the intended use is to cook chicken, is to cut meat, cook chicken, and all that. But then there obviously are bad people that use knives in order to stab and kill people. Like, that's the thing. When you get something, there's obviously going to be a negative part of it no matter what thing it is. And that's what a lot of these people who want like all guns taken away never understand, which is there's probably multiple items in their house that someone somewhere probably used to kill someone else. Like, it may sound stupid, but think of it. A pillow. A pillow was used to suffocate a baby, therefore we should get rid of all pillows. A car was used to kill some protesters and run them over, therefore we should ban all cars. A knife was used to stab somebody, therefore we should ban all knives. The problem with this is that you're not treating adults as adults. You're treating them as overgrown children. And that's the thing about liberty. Liberty and freedoms, which is adults have the right to do things. But if they do like something like murder or something, they should have that right taken away from them. But it should not extend to the general population. Just because a certain set of bad actors do something that makes everyone else look bad does not mean that everyone else deserves to be punished for that one person's thing. For example, a lot of states have like gun-free zones or even make it harder to get guns. And then they're like, "Oh, this is to protect the people." But then someone who is obviously a bad actor buys a gun in another state, takes it there, and then shoots people. Like, there are things like that happen. And the thing about freedoms is you have to accept that there always are going to be negative repercussions of it by a certain subset of people. It's never the majority. It's always a small minority of people that do this, and it is always sad no matter what it is. But the answer is never take it away, because once you take it away, you're basically punishing all the people who did everything correct, never had a problem in their lives, and taking it away from them. There obviously are things like whether or not you're mentally capable of having ones, and to be honest, there are lots of tests for that stuff. And getting guns, like in some states, is pretty much impossible. Like, think about this. Like, here's a great example. California is a state that is notorious for having extremely restrictive gun laws. And yet, California's crime rate is extraordinarily high. And the reason is simply because California does not use its police force to arrest bad actors. They, in fact, just kind of let them do whatever they want with little to no punishment. But they have some of the most restrictive gun laws ever. And the government's job, as well as your state's job, is to protect you and make sure you're fine. So if you make stricter gun laws, you should be as well. You should also be using your police force to keep the general population safer and make sure everyone's safe. But they don't do that either. So you make it harder for civilians to get guns, but at the same time, you also make it that the police force doesn't do shit when like someone burns down signs, closes streets, or any of that stuff. Like, that's the reality a lot of stuff like that, which is states like California want gun control, want nobody to have guns, but they're not even able to keep their own population safe from the people they're supposed to protect them with the police force. So at the end of the day, it's just them saying things in order to take advantage of stupid people. And then those stupid people can do that stuff for them. Because think about this. Every single politician that wants gun control, what do they have that you don't? Millions of dollars. They have security guards. They probably live in gated communities away from all the problems they allow into their cities. Like, they have so many luxuries that you don't have as a person, as well as luxuries to, like, throw out declassified information to the public and not get punished for it. Something which other people would get like 10 to 8 years for because of doing something like that. And these are the people that are telling you, oh, we need to get rid of your guns. Because the reality is, they're not getting rid of the guns their security teams have. They're not getting rid of any of the safety that their security team does to keep them safe. They're only implementing it on the general population. Because what they see you as is basically a bunch of people to control. You don't have the lifestyle they do. So why should they help the economy by making it better, when instead they could flood it with illegal immigrants, making a newer slave class that businesses can take advantage of, for them to keep their lifestyles at the same level it was 20 years ago. But there's a lot of stuff like that that's completely bullshit.
Hey, Charlie, how are you? So I just had a question on your thoughts on if we need more gun control in the country or not. I'm very pro protecting.
The best answer is usually no, under most circumstances. The only ones that I'm fine with basically are mental checks. But if there's an adult that has, no crime history whatsoever, they shouldn't have any more gun controls. I understand it for the criminal population if they committed a crime that uses guns, banning them. But the problem is people want to extend limitations they put on them to everyone else.
America and the citizens that live in it. And so I think that we should have more gun control because there's a lot of school shootings that happen, as we mentioned. And, I just think it would do a lot to protect the people. And I think the Second Amendment also qualifies that we should have regulations for guns. I wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Sure. Do you think gun ownership is a right or a privilege?
For that part, it is a right. Because the thing is, once you become a criminal, let's say, you lose certain rights, like the right to vote and the right to carry firearms. That's because you specifically did an action which caused your right to be taken away from you. So the thing is, anyone in the general population that has no crime history, that's completely mentally stable, should be able to get one. As long as they meet all the qualifications. Like, they should be able to just get guns.
I think it's a right, but it comes with responsibilities.
Okay, tell me more.
Well,
Yep.
I think that there should be things in place, things like red flag laws and things like that. The AG just approved Mel Gibson to get his gun rights back, even though he had a domestic violence charge. So, I don't think the people that commit these violent crimes should be able to buy guns and things like that. And I think we should have red flag laws in place to make sure that those violent criminals aren't getting guns.
Okay, so let's go. So tell me, in your perfect world, what would constitute a red flag?
Just things like, we can look into any kind of medication and things like that that can affect someone's.
That could be dangerous, right? That could be there's a lot of vets that come home from war and that are on a lot of medication. A lot of vets could have their weapons taken away.
Well, I'm not necessarily saying, bless you.
Thank you. It's the pollen or something. Thank you.
I'm not necessarily saying like it's mainly to prevent future shootings and things like that, and also putting in place things like a federal registry so that we know the types of guns that people have, and it would just essentially be a federal registry that shows these are the guns that this person has. In case a cop has to go on something like a domestic call, that's the most dangerous call they can go on. So.
Yeah, I can see you're coming after this from a good perspective. Let me ask one other question. What would you say is the ultimate and final purpose of the Second Amendment?
Well, before he answers, I'll say mine. Mine is as a way for the general population to protect themselves from a tyrannical government, as well as protect themselves and their property from anyone else who may be intending to harm or hurt them in order to take away or destroy that. That's what I see it as. And I'm gonna get into one argument that some people use that like is so retarded that there's really no need to even try to argue with it. Which is they'll be like, oh, the founding fathers never intended for you to have guns like you do today. Like here's a very easy way to fight that argument, which is you see this? The founding fathers never knew that something like this, a microphone that, is wired to an electrical wall that's connected to the power in your house would be invented. And yet you use it to express your freedom of speech. So saying that it doesn't apply to the Second Amendment, but you're using your First Amendment in a way that the founding fathers never knew it would have been used in the future is allowed is completely retarded. The only way I could accept an argument like that is if the guy saying it wrote with a quill pen in English from the 1800s, sent it on the Pony Express all the way to my house, and then, after I get the letter, then I would take their opinion actually seriously, because they actually are living what they say they are. But anyone else outside of that who just say they never intended them for them to get better in the future, like they're absolutely retarded. Think about this. There were some of the founding fathers that never really thought slavery would end. And guess what happened? It ended. So should that also apply to something else like that? The answer is obviously no, that's retarded. And that's how it goes for the Second Amendment too, which is no, it's completely retarded. It's a statement that absolutely has no logical basis. And once you use it, and once you apply that same reasoning to other constitutional rights, then people start to have a problem with the very thing they argued with. But anyways, let's go.
I think it's self-defense against a tyrannical government, which
We agree.
Yep.
Great. Keep going.
well, but I think within the Second Amendment, it also implies that we have high regulations in the first four words.
Sort of.
it,
Well,
a
well-regulated militia
Right.
actually meant well-armed, but that's a separate issue. But like,
Well, how do you know? You're interpreting what the founding fathers.
well,
put
they
in.
said it in the Federalist Papers, right? So
Yep.
it's not just me, but also in the Heller decision, in the 5-4 decision, that said that gun ownership was a right. This was
Yep.
a hotly debated thing.
But so
And-
do you disagree? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Do you like disagree with the idea of like a federal registry like
Oh,
that?
without a doubt. The
You
only
do?
reason you want to register the guns is if you want to confiscate them.
Well,
Yep, that's 100% true. Because think about it. The only people that want to register them are politicians that have their own security teams. Who else in their right mind really argues for that stuff outside of politicians? Because, like, they have their security team, they have their gated communities, they have their fancy mansions. They're away from all the crimes that the general population has riddled with it. So think about it this way. Gavin Newsom can allow as many illegal immigrants as he wants into his states to be protected, but at his house, absolutely none of them affect anything that happens there. And that's the way they want it.
or to make sure that people like officers of the law are protected and know what
It's-
they're going into. I mean, a domestic.
Again, that's a good argument.
Right.
To your credit, I will try to make a better argument where
Yep.
the problem of the government knowing where every gun is would then lead itself towards mass confiscation.
Yep.
And I would agree with you. A well-armed citizenry is the greatest protectorate of liberty and freedom in this country.
Even though the army has things like drones and tanks and things like that that outarm, citizens that have.
Yes and no.
just
I
a
mean,
gun.
we've seen it in several instances where at least a citizen, that's a good argument, but I would say a little flawed, where the citizens are able to protect themselves in some ways. It's a much harder population to control.
I understand, but so you think a federal registry would infringe on the rights?
Potentially. I mean, I think that there's no good argument, I think, other than potential. I ascribe to the government bad motives and bad intentions when it
Yep.
wants to infringe more on these types of freedoms and liberties.
Well, I understand.
That's 100% true. Because think about it. Why would they put the Second Amendment right after the First Amendment? It was not like the 20th Amendment. It was not the 30th Amendment. It was the Second Amendment. Right after free speech, freedom of expression, freedom of religion. It was right there in the Second Amendment. The reason was they revolted against a different government that was Britain, and then they created their own united country that slowly expanded over time. Which is, if you look at the intent of the founders, you'll obviously be able to tell that they were obviously intending those freedoms for the people. Because if they weren't, why weren't they trying to take everybody's guns away from them at the time? Like, that's the simple reality. Which is, if you use the fountain with it, which is when you use their time as an example, you can obviously tell there was a lack of pretty much any gun control. There we
I
go.
just personally don't see it as an infringement because, like we just said, and I think we agreed that owning a gun is a right. However, I
Yes.
think it was responsibilities. But also, I wanted to ask,
Yeah, but that's the same thing. Cars are a right, and you have a responsibility. If you fuck up, the government takes away your license, and you can't drive legally again without, being arrested for it.
is voting a right or is that a privilege?
Well, it is a right, and that's so
Voting is a
felons can
right.
get their rights back, right? And
Right.
so, but rights can be suspended or delayed.
Yep.
We
Right,
both agree
but-
with that. So,
right,
for
but-
example, like somebody in prison doesn't get guns.
Right. No, of course.
Somebody in prison doesn't have the same free speech rights that you
Right,
might have.
but what's the first thing that you have to do if you want to vote in this country? You have to register, right? So it's a federal registration to be able to vote in this country. So why not, and we can agree that, keeping safe and, keeping our elections to where people who shouldn't vote aren't voting is, that's keeping America safe because we don't want people who
That's a
can't
fair
vote.
point. I would say there's something that there's a technical difference between a voter registration roll and a gun registration
Right, guns
roll.
are much more dangerous.
Well, also, but guns in many different ways, they would go after the guns a lot more than, like, I don't know, the voter registration roll.
Well, how do we know, though?
My worldview comes out of one in the 20th century, where almost every totalitarian government went after the guns first, and the
Yep.
confiscation of guns then leads into the erosion of freedom and liberty.
Right, but wouldn't you say in the 20th century, as you just said, that the disparity between the technology that citizens had to protect themselves compared to what the military had,
Yep.
wouldn't you say that there was a much smaller disparity as opposed to what we see
Somewhat.
nowadays?
I think that's a fair point.
Yeah, but that point by itself actually is pretty bad. If you see there's a smaller disparity between back then and now, then what you're basically saying is we should have civilians' weapons increase in power in order to more closely match the military. And like that's the point with that argument, which is you're either going to have to weaken the military, making it so that China or Russia could easily destroy you, or increase the amount of weapons the civilians are capable of getting in order for the civilians to match the power of the military currently. That's the problem with that one, which is it's super easy to destroy.
So,
I'm acknowledging that's a fair point.
okay.
But,
I
but
just,
do you see my perspective as well?
No, I do
that,
understand.
That an
It's-
armed
it's-
citizenry also says shall not be infringed. So we have to kind of
Yep,
wrestle
shall
with
not
those
be
two
infringed.
things
right, but so if
simultaneously.
it's just a semantics argument, then to that point,
Well, it's
because,
not. I mean, semantics is meaning. That's literally what the word means. But
right,
Yep.
but
so,
you're saying because it says shall not be infringed, we can't do anything.
No,
But
no,
does that
I'm
mean,
saying,
does that
though,
mean
that
voting rights can be
I'm
infringed?
saying
Because it doesn't say it cannot be infringed.
I'm saying I err on the side that more government regulation around guns means that they'll try to take good people's guns away,
Yep.
which then results in less global or let's just say national freedom and liberty.
What if getting the
I agree with
medicine
that.
you need didn't have to be so hard?
Oh god. Oh, I'm gonna tell you guys right here. I said this in a video a long time ago, but I don't agree with selling medicine on YouTube. If you're not a doctor or someone in the medical profession, you should not be doing anything related to medicine. Let's see what it is, but I hope it's not some weird medicine, because I know you could actually potentially be held liable for it, which is why I would never ever want to like advertise any type of medicine.
Waiting weeks to see a doctor, no fighting with insurance. That's why I want to tell you about All Family Pharmacy. They're
Oh,
doing the medical
pharmacy.
freedom, and they're changing the way people get the medical.
Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. If he's promoting a pharmacy instead, I'm cool with that. Because at least pharmacies, they're at least held liable for the medicine they sell you.
Medications they trust. Just go online and pick up what you need. Things like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, NAD+, methylene blue, antibiotics, and more than 200 other medications. A licensed doctor reviews your orders, writes
Ooh.
the prescription, and your medicine shows up at your door in a few days. You do
Oh, okay. I agree with this. Oh, for a second, I thought it was gonna be like him recommending some like medicine. Oh, okay, never mind. This is actually a good implementation of it. Okay.
not need insurance, you don't need to beg a doctor, just simple, fast, honest care. Check them out and get 10% off your order today.
Damn.
Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Kirk and use promo code Kirk10 to get 10% off.
I understand, but wouldn't you say that that more guns can potentially lead to more danger and less guns
Yes
would
and
be less
no.
dangerous?
That reality is simply yes. Like the simplest form is if everyone has a car, there's going to be more car accidents. If everyone has a knife, there's going to be more knife accidents or stabbings. Like that's a reality in freedom, which is you're giving people the freedom to use things, but if they use that freedom in a bad way, then you just jail them. That's literally it. The problem is that if you punish the general population for the actions of a few people, all you're doing is making a bunch of people pissed off and making your voter base actually literally hate you. But the answer to that question was actually yes. The reason a lot of people don't say it is because, they may sound like assholes, but I don't give a crap. Like, it doesn't sound like the nicest thing ever, but that is a reality. More guns equal more people dying from guns. But at the same time, that applies to literally every other thing on the planet. Like, literally every other thing on the planet. More pillows means there's more people that die from pillows. More beds mean there's more people that die falling off of beds. More stairs means there's more people that die from stairs. Like, that applies to everything. The only thing that the only thing that matters in all those things combined is law enforcement on each of them to keep the crazies out of pretty much all of that stuff. That's literally it.
I mean, there's plenty of evidence to show that states that have more, so like if you take Houston and Chicago, about comparable populations, Houston actually has warmer weather, which means potentially more gang violence. They have about half, if not even less, the amount of homicides per year than in Chicago. Chicago
Damn.
has much stricter gun laws than Houston. Like,
Yeah, I agree with that part. Chicago does have stricter gun laws. But you see, that's a difference, which is the state of Texas accepts guns and civilians use guns all the time. So it's something that they're so used to that criminals know that the next person they try to rob may actually have a gun, which actually is a good deterrence for criminals. But if you go to a place that purposely is a gun-free zone or a state that has very high gun restrictions, then someone who does have a gun can obviously take advantage of that far more often than a place that potentially 1 in 4 people have a gun in.
incredibly strict gun laws.
I understand, but I'm also, well, I think part of what plays into that is the gun laws that are around those cities. They're a lot more lenient than those cities themselves. So I think I'm not saying that's entirely the cause of it. But
Oh, I know. Yeah, that actually is a small factor, which is like, I forgot which one it was, but there was a place where a guy, fuck, who was the most recent shooter? Oh, I don't remember, but that one guy who was the most recent shooter, I think he just got his gun from a different place and then came back to the city he was in. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but the guy like shot up somewhere with, I think, a shotgun, and like he just entered with it, like, with no problem at all. Fuck. But that is a reality, which is that does happen.
I've heard that my whole life, so yeah.
right, but I'm basically just talking about preventing people that have committed crimes such as domestic violence. I know I mentioned Pam
But yeah, I do agree with that point. But the thing is, like, there's a lot of implementations of it. They're all like, some of them are different, so I can't tell you everything.
Bondi gave Mel Gibson his rights to purchase a gun again, even though he pled guilty to battery domestic violence charge in 2011, and yet
I actually don't know about that. So yeah, I actually never heard about that. So I'll just take his word for it, at least right now.
now he is able to purchase a gun again, which I disagree with because he committed a violent crime. I mean, do you disagree with that personally?
No, I mean, I don't know the details of the case, but I think I've met Mel Gibson. I think he should be able to own a gun. I mean, like
Just off of speaking to him, though, even though with his
yeah, I
criminal
mean,
history. And
I don't.
everything?
Again, I don't know all the details. Do I think that the idea of taking his rights away because of something that happened that I don't know all the details about 14
Well, he
years
pled
ago?
guilty to it, though.
Again,
I mean,
I find
Yeah, that's the thing. If what he's saying was 100% true, I agree that guy should not have a gun. But if it isn't 100% true, then I don't know for sure because I haven't heard the story either.
that to be a little bit of an infringement on basic rights.
even though he literally
Again, I don't
committed
know the
violence against
details
his life.
around that, but I guess we're getting to a place where do you think anyone that's convicted of violent crime should be able to own guns again?
No, not at
Oh,
all.
wow,
If they're
okay.
committing a violent crime, absolutely not. I think we should protect people in America, which I think you agree with, and I think
Yeah,
that
but
is how we protect America.
that's a balance.
The simplest way is just put them in jail. Easy.
Are we going to really say the federal government is going to protect us from ourselves when it comes to guns.
No, I mean it's less about
Not really.
the federal government taking away guns and more just allowing them to protect their citizens. And it's not about getting rid of guns. I'm a gun owner myself. I go hunting. I was on a competitive
What
team.
state would you say has the gun laws that are the most appealing to your worldview?
I don't know specific state laws, if I'm being completely.
If he said California, his opinion would have immediately been thrown out the window. At least the old California laws before they were, unconstitutional. All those California compliant guns that look like absolute shit.
To be honest with you,
but something to think about.
But I'm speaking, even just the federal registry itself. I think that would protect, a lot of officers of the law. Like I said, when they go on domestic calls, that's the most dangerous call that an officer of the law can go on.
There's an informal registry, not a formal one. Just gun dealers are supposed to report.
Yep.
Right, but
gun dealers report
all the time. Though?
No, of course not. Obviously, I mean,
right.
I
So
live in
wouldn't the
reality.
federal registry eliminate that problem then?
Again, I would go back to a formal registry. You register in order to confiscate. It is a prerequisite towards confiscation.
Isn't that just a slippery slope
not,
argument though? If you give
well,
one
it's
thing,
not.
then another thing.
It's a historical argument, right? We see that throughout totalitarian dictatorships throughout the 20th century.
Yeah, I agree with
where
that.
If you want to take
Dictatorships
the weapons
do
away,
that.
you first ask for a collection of all the items that you then want to collect. But I could see you're coming after this in good faith. I tend to be on a much more libertarian side, even though I'm not libertarian. Where we actually need looser gun laws because I think that
gun laws.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, especially in states like Chicago and Illinois, where it's very basic Second Amendment rights. So I'll give you a great example.
Okay.
In a state like Rhode Island or New York,
right.
it could take a woman upwards of 30 days to get a gun.
Damn.
Let's say a man wants to actually do harm to her, and she gets threats, and the police won't intervene. I think she should be able to get a gun that afternoon to protect herself.
Yeah, I agree with that. As long as you do the I think it was an 8-hour course, you should be able to just get a gun. But I kind of agree with that because if you look at a place like Florida, you can pretty much buy a gun even without a concealed carry license. It just takes I think it was 2 weeks to get the gun, and they do a very thorough background check as well. So that is part of it. But as you can see, there's a lot less stuff like that happening in Florida than there would be in a lot of other high population states.
I understand that.
So in that case, I think that gun laws should be looser.
I understand.
I think
in that regard, I do agree with you.
Cool. So
absolutely.
that would be an instance of that. And I also will go back to this idea of red flag laws. We have seen case after case of it being abused, of veterans having their weapons taken away because of fake accusations and, let's just say, faulty accusations, saying that they're mentally unbalanced, so on and so forth.
But do you think that they can investigate cases like that and see if there aren't any medications? I mean, a lot of these antidepressants can change your brain chemistry.
For sure.
Oh, yeah, they can't, but they won't. The thing about laws is that pretty much every politician will use it to exploit it in order to, get certain things out of it, misrepresenting the wording of it, or outright lying to you about what's on it. A lot of politicians and law enforcement will do that in order to get something out of you. So that's why you can never have full trust in a politician like that. So that's why you can never have 100% trust in government or government officials, which is they're mostly working in their best interest rather than your best interest.
And some of it, though, is they take the guns away first and they ask questions after. It's a difficult, very, I don't want to say gray area, but edge part of the law where I tend to, and a respectable position, respect to you, I tend to err on the side of it is a right. The government screws up more than it does correct in this specific portion.
Because I agree with that. Because if a state like Florida was doing it, there would obviously be less problems. But a state like California, if they did a government-wide thing, it would obviously be absolutely fucking terrible in every way imaginable.
And the downside to having more guns is far better than the downside of having only the government have guns.
Yeah, that's true. If only the government has guns, you'll get a basically place like Britain or France where, immigrant rape gangs are just running around and you can't do shit about it. And then girls are being arrested for saying bad things about them being taken advantage of rather than that. If you look at France or Britain, they're literal actual fucking shitholes. The UK, all that stuff, they're not working in the best interests of their civilians. They're working in the best interests of themselves in order for them to keep the lifestyle they have by implementing a new slave market because illegal immigrants work for far less, work far harder, and don't have any legal protections, making it easier to exploit them in order for you to get work done that you personally want.
Even if that can cost American lives, though. I mean, me personally, I would give
Well-
up all of my guns in a heartbeat if I knew for a fact
Okay,
that it was going
let's-
to save one life.
Can I do a
Well, no, that's a problem. That's a problem right there. If it was going to save one life, you give up all your guns. What if your guns were able to save more than one life? Right, that's a very easy thing about it. But
thought
yeah,
experiment to you?
Sure.
So, do you think we should ban driving?
yeah, I know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to say cars kill more people than guns do, and then there's more people driving cars, so should you take away people's right to drive cars because of that? Oh, dude, this is exactly the thing I said at the start. Let's see if he says it.
No, I don't think so.
Of course
And I know
not.
where you're going with this. 'Cause car crashes are more.
55,000 people a year die from car accidents, right?
Yep.
Absolutely, but
If-
those are accidents, though. That's not someone intentionally
Well,
going
that's
and
not
killing.
true.
Actually, that's false. Not all of them are accidents. There are people who have bad intentions. You can't just assume every car accident is on accident. There are some people that willingly crash into vehicles and willingly do insurance fraud. You cannot pretend that part of it does not exist.
Some
Somebody.
people intentionally do, or some people have DUIs, right? Some of it is
Right.
an act of agency, not just accidents, right?
Yep.
Meaning that they are reckless with the technology.
I understand.
You would agree a DUI is a reckless act.
Oh, for sure.
And that's a
absolutely.
vast
Yep.
majority of auto deaths,
Right.
both in the interior of the vehicle and the exterior.
Right, but then what do you have to do to be able to drive, though? You have to get a driver's license. You have to take a test with an
No,
instructor.
of course, but I'm saying if the pursuit of to save, if it's all about saving lives, then
Yeah.
then there are certain things that we'd get rid of. I would say though that government is not merely there for our safety. It's one of the primary focuses. You have to balance liberty and safety, and that's a tough
Yep.
balance at times. I fall on this issue on the side of liberty. Final thought.
So what?
Yeah, 100%. If you give up liberty for temporary safety, you don't deserve either of them. That's the reality.
Yeah, just one last quick question, I promise. What about something, as I mentioned, with taking a driving test to be able to get a driver's license, you have to prove that you know how to operate the vehicle safely. What about something similar to that with owning a gun? Some kind of thing where you go to a range with a trained professional,
No.
you show that you know how to operate the gun, safely, know how to store it safely, things like that. Yet,
Yeah, I mean,
and then
so-
once you pass that, you get some kind of card that allows you to buy a gun.
I
mean, it's all
think
about
that-
protections. It's not about
yes,
restricting
on
rights.
that you might have some agreement with me because
Yeah, I agree with some implementation of that, but it depends on who makes it and what it is about. Because, like, the thing is, a lot of guns, to even have a gun, you need, like, a certain licenses. Well, yeah, stuff like that. But yeah, this last opinion he said was actually kind of fair. Kind of fair because if you need a license to drive a car, don't you need something like that to get a gun? Yeah, I agree with some implementation of that, but obviously there's, going to be bad actors who try to enforce even stricter gun laws in exchange for that. So we'll see for sure, but I prefer the more state to state wide, differences where Florida by itself is a far better, more gun leaning state than other states like Illinois or California. But yeah, this was a pretty interesting debate where, thankfully most of the people on this side usually freak out. I'm glad he did not freak out. I mostly agree with him, but I do think some of his points are actually good. But anyways, that was pretty much all. I just wanted to show you this debate. I thought it was interesting.